Hej och välkomna till ett nytt avsnitt av det nya samhället. Och idag har jag med mig Mustafa Sherif som i vanliga fall brukar leda Urbanistica podcast för att Björn och Louise är busy elsewhere. Och dagen till ära så har vi Kiri Mackersey som är läkare i centrala New York. Och welcome to this little talk, Kiri. We're curious to know what it's like to be a doctor in the greater metropolitan area of New York when you are experiencing this epidemic and the center of the epidemic in America, as I've learned. What is the situation? First of all, how are you feeling today?
Today I feel good. Today I feel fine, thank you. How I feel depends a lot on whether I'm about to go to work. Today I'm not working, and so I have the pleasure of talking to you. Tomorrow I am working, and things change if I'm heading into work or not.
Can you tell us what your working situation is like and what it's like in New York at this moment? What is the situation like for you as a citizen and for you as a doctor at a hospital in New York?
So as a citizen, suddenly New York has become very, very quiet. I live on a street that is actually between a major hospital and another road, and it's very common for us to hear the sound of traffic and sirens and buses and talk almost 24 hours a day in normal life. And the very strange thing is how suddenly you hear birds singing, and it is actually quiet on the street. Wow. It is never quiet in New York, and now the only thing that I hear on the street is occasionally there's also a psychiatric hospital nearby, so occasionally we hear people from the psychiatric hospital walking past, or people who are homeless. Unfortunately, there are also a lot of homeless people in New York, but other than that, silence. As a doctor, everything has changed. I used to take the subway. I stopped taking the subway. It felt too risky to take the subway all of a sudden. Where I work, we stopped doing normal surgery. The hospital is entirely full of people who have COVID. We have converted places that don't usually have patients into places where we have to look after patients. And we've opened up new ICUs all over the hospital. Nobody used to wear a mask inside the hospital except inside the operating room, or very occasionally inside somebody's room who had an infectious condition. Now we wear masks pretty much from the moment that we walk through the doors of the hospital.
Kiri, I had a question. How does New York look like now? Are there many field hospitals or just like Javits Center?
So there are several field hospitals. They're mainly in tents. A lot of them are being used for testing and for triage. So I don't believe many of those hospitals are being used in an ICU capacity. They're being used to figure out who needs to go into an ICU inside a hospital.
And considering the fact that this is maybe the first of many epidemics that we'll experience in the future, how do you believe as a doctor that a metropolitan area can build resilience in the future event? What can we learn from this? How could we build a more sustainable society in terms of preventing disease from spreading? Do you have any?
A lot of opinions.
A lot of opinions, yeah.
So American health has functioned for a long time in a private model, and the ideal has been what they call a lean model, a model that only stocks what they need at any time, that doesn't have any waste, that doesn't store things that they don't need to store. And what we've seen through this is that model might be very profitable, but it's very, very fragile. And without a stockroom full of things that we need in an emergency, we are very, very vulnerable. And that's what medical workers have felt throughout the city. From the point of view of a member of the public, it's very the easiest comparison I have is what's happened back where I'm originally from, which is New Zealand. The leadership in New Zealand has made an enormous effort to communicate directly and honestly, and to keep the population aware of everything that's happening and what the plans are from the start. And by comparison, what we've seen in America is that there was denial, that people changed their story, and so the public lost a lot of trust with leadership and started looking to alternative sources of information. And some of those alternative sources of information were good, and some of them were not good. But nobody trusts what's coming out of the official leadership anymore, because the trust is completely disintegrated. And so from the point of view of a member of the public, the really obvious example is whether you should wear a mask or not. And so initially, the message that the American public was given was, no, don't wear a mask. A mask doesn't serve any purpose. That's just something that other cultures do, and it won't help you. It turned out that maybe one of the reasons that they were saying that was to try and preserve masks for other reasons. And the moment that the public understands that the message that they've been given was not really for the purpose that they were originally told, but for some other secret purpose, how can you believe the person talking the next time they give you a public health message? You just can't.
What about the faith in Andrew Cuomo? Is he popular in New York? Do people have faith in him?
That's a very good question. So he's become very, very popular. He's partly become popular because he's challenging the federal government. New York is typically a democratic city. New York State is a little bit different, but New York City is a city that generally supports the Democratic Party. And so someone who's challenging the current Republican federal government is going to be popular. Yeah. He's also been given a fairly consistent message, and he's speaking fairly directly. There is some feeling that he maybe should have acted sooner, but he is gaining, what he's saying has gained traction and popularity. I think he's been fighting a difficult battle. Unlike some countries, if I was to name one overarching characteristic of American culture, it would be a desire for freedom and personal freedom. And so one of the big challenges that any administration has had is trying to convince people that this is the right time to hand over that very important personal freedom. New Yorkers love expressing themselves. They like being free. And before this sort of shutdown happened, one of the big things that I heard people talking about on the radio was, oh, how dare anyone tell me what to do? That's my freedom. I get to choose. And it really took time for people to say, oh, actually, I'll just freely choose to stay at home, and to kind of reframe.
Yeah, exactly. I was wondering, because now we are talking about trust to the government, trust to the people as a superhero says. How is the trust within the community, with your neighbors? How is the atmosphere?
So that's actually one of the most beautiful things. It's incredible. It actually moves me. I've had neighbors, my neighbors know that I'm a doctor, and they know that I'm going to work. And my neighbors baked me a cake. One of my neighbors went to a store, and we're only allowed to buy a few masks. I didn't have a lot of masks for work. And one of my neighbors went back to a store every time she could to buy me another mask for work. Not a regular mask, but a special mask. And she knocked on my door and she handed it to me, and she said, we both started crying when she gave me the mask.
Wow.
And then she realized that I wasn't angry with her for buying the mask. And so she went back and bought me more masks and just left them on the door.
A perfect neighbor.
No, it's amazing. And my other neighbor I met on the roof. We were standing far apart. We met on the roof, and we met at 7 o'clock, because 7 o'clock is when, for a couple of minutes, the city will clap. And they clap for medical workers out the window and on the roofs. And we met on the roof to clap for other medical workers. And there's a feeling at 7 o'clock that everybody really cares. And so at a very kind of grassroots community level, it is incredible. It actually, 7 o'clock is what keeps me going every day, because people are clapping, they're thanking us, and they care. It's
I can see you're getting very emotional. Are you scared when you go to work?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I have a little boy. I have a husband. It's impossible not to think about it.
Yeah, I'm
you,
impressed as well.
yeah, Kiri, you know, you and all the people working in the hospitals, you're our only hope. So if you're strong, we are also strong. So we are just looking at you every single morning. So and we have all the hope in you. So you're not alone as well.
Thank you. It's actually the feeling that there's a purpose and a meaning to this, and that my colleagues feel the same. Is that we're doing this despite everything that the government has done to let us down, but we're doing this because we care.
And because you're a real human being.
Yeah, and we're connected, and there's a strange sense also of being connected to the community, and also to a community that's bigger than my building, even an international community. The doctors around the world have shared information via podcasts and webinars, and people from doctors from Wuhan in China and doctors from Lombardy region in Italy have basically gone online internationally and talked and sat down and explained what it was like for them. Some of these doctors are doing it at 2:00 in the morning so that it will be the right time for us. And they're exhausted after long shifts, but they're sharing and trying to help.
How long are your shifts?
About 12 hours.
12 hours, and you're fully dressed. You change everything, and you've got long sleeves. And after you're done, you throw away the tenue, everything.
We don't throw it away.
Wow.
You don't throw it away.
We don't have enough to throw it away.
Because they say, I have my friend who's a biologist that we interviewed in Milan. She's at a lab in for the municipality. She says the virus can survive 72 hours on plastic material.
So if I don't know whether it's a Swedish thing as well, but when I was a little girl, when you first had your first sets of underpants, you had underpants for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
So I have my masks for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. And I have them in bags. And it means that I have more than 72 hours in between using a mask.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Kiri, Kiri, what do you see like in the nearest future? Are we going to make it? Are New York going to make it with the capacity of hospitals and doctors and hope?
Yes. The bottom line is we are very, very determined, and we don't have enough equipment. I mean, we absolutely don't have enough equipment. What we do have is determination. We do have a slow increase in supplies at the same time as the increase in infection has slowed down. I think the thing that's very difficult to measure is what has happened outside the hospital. And we sort of are aware it isn't being counted properly, but fewer people are going to hospital for other things. And so in the community, we have people who are suffering at home and are horribly dying at home because they didn't ever make it to the hospital. And so I don't know the number of people who would have made it otherwise, but for entirely unrelated reasons. But as a city, a few weeks ago, I want to say it was 3 weeks or a month ago, somebody said to a friend of mine, "Oh yes, we have to go to work unless the looting and the rioting starts." And she was very frightened, and she came to talk to me, and I said, "Absolutely not. That's not who we are. That's not going to happen. And that's not what's happened. People have taken it seriously, and they've been respectful. And things are not as they are, not as they were, and not as they will be. But the city is calm. It is not a crazy place to be."
I was wondering, you talked about your neighbor who came with the masks. Have you been provided those facial masks from 3D printing? A lot of architecture firms are posting that and in Sweden we haven't been allowed to use them because of hygienic and standards. What about, do you use them? Are they supplied in the States, and do you use them?
So there are two answers to that question. The first answer is yes, the 3D printed masks. One of my colleagues has a 3D printer. I sent him the PDF. He started printing the masks. The second part to that question is that I personally didn't use one of those. I went to the hardware store about, I guess, again, that was approximately a month ago, and I bought it's actually a protective shield if you're going to do wood chipping. I'm not a wood chipper.
That's how you
maybe I'll take it up after this.
Is that what you normally do at work? Shut people up?
Yes, no, that's it. It's quite heavy, but you can wash it, and that was the thing that I wanted. I wanted something that was sustainable that I could wash. And so the picture that you saw of me was actually me wearing that mask, which is I think if you were going to do some spray painting, and that's what I wear. I look, actually, one of my friends pointed this out, it's true, I look like I'm a riot police person. It's got a big, anyway, it's quite big. I wanted to make sure that I was maximally protected, and one of the things that's been controversial has been a disconnection between what we know is the right standard, what we've been provided with, and also this very strange relationship between what the official authorities have said is okay to use in an emergency. And so there's been a change in what we were always told was what we should be doing. And a lot of people have said, actually, no, I'm just going to find my own way to get back to that higher standard. And the response of people in authority to that decision has been fairly appalling.
Oh, I'm blown away by your story. I mean, it's not a story, it's real life. And I feel life as an architect in this closet is quite far away from where the action is and where you can make change. So I'm thankful to hear your story.
But you as an architect, we need you to be designing things like a hospital floor that can be turned into an isolation area quickly.
Yeah, interesting.
So the infrastructure that we lack inside the hospital is very widespread. I mean, we only had a few ICUs, and we had to create ICUs. When you're designing a hospital of the future, the idea that you could quickly change the way that the doors are configured, the way that the building is set out, the way that we could say, okay, now we're shutting down this ward, it's going to be an isolation area. Here's the separation between the hallway and the ward. Here's the cleaning area. Here's the decontamination zone.
Yeah, I believe this is what we are learning. Everyone is learning something during the coronavirus, and for us working with urban planning and architecture, this is what we are going to learn and to face the same challenge in the future. So yes, of course, it's not easy, but I believe all together we're gonna make it.
So Kiri, thank you so much for having joined us today, and I hope to welcome you live in Sweden with your family when this is all behind us. We won't ever forget, I think, but we will be more well prepared for the next time.
It's lovely seeing you again. So lovely to meet you, Mustafa.
Yeah, we love you.
Take care now. Love to your family. Stay healthy and safe. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.